Hey everybody, and welcome to another RCT2 review. We continue our look through the head-to-head 9 parks. This is going to wrap up round 3 for us. This is round 3, match 3, featuring the Scream Queens against Adventurers Club. So we will start with the Scream Queens park. This is Frontier's Keep. The shares on this one, 30% go to Chappie, 25% go to Che, 25% to Rumi, and 20% to Phoenix Wing 101. So this is a cool sort of dichotomy of two things, the hot and the cold. So we've got this kind of lava flow through the middle of this, ice glacier, mountainous region, and all this industrial stuff in the middle of it. I really liked this park. This one worked for me really well. I think what jumped out to me first, before we get into anything specific, was the two-tone coloration of the lava. I think it worked really, really well. Didn't use the orange water that you can change into in RCT kind of base game. It's actual scenery, and you got the actual pieces here. This angled, slow-moving rock that's just kind of cruising through here, so you kind of have that molten rock flow thing going on, and then really just all the various details and everything else in here. So you've got the little trash pieces here that make it sort of look like debris. You've got these great kind of veining of the lava coming out to the side here, stuff on fire, working very well. Well, anyway, what's here itself as far as buildings and everything else go is dense. There's a lot going on here. So let's take a look at the big coaster here, since this is the first one. So this is the Crash and Burn Railroad Company. Clever name. Love this little cutaway view here with the supports and the coaster coming down it. That's working really well for me. So here we go for a nice vertical drop. Zero G roll. This is a pretty big layout, actually. You can kind of see how it's circling around in a couple of spots. It also has some cool fake track theming here on the side. You've got this section over here with the mine cars. So really well integrated into the whole thing. Another roll here. Outward bank corner, as you'd expect. And wrapping up into brake run over here in the station. Really liking these buildings over here on the cliff side. Too liking how sort of detailed this ice cliff is, sort of faceted on the verticals there, kind of like you'd figure ice would sort of break apart as. And then also seeing the different colored pieces used here for the roof. So it's got a nice sort of look like fresh fallen snow, perhaps. We've got a conveyor belt working all the way down here. This is Rumi's conveyor object or ride, which he has plenty of different rides in here for the whole thing. Love this little waterfall coming down off of the pipe, ending in the water here. And then on the other side, we had these buckets. So this is a custom Skyride vehicle. These molten buckets of lava here coming across to whatever processing facility is going on here. And then down below, we've got these two things here. The empties go in, the fulls come out. So another clever little visual trick there as well. And that's pretty nice. And right next to this, we've got a little mine train, which actually took me a minute to notice this on my first pass through, just because it's such a dense map and there's just so much going on that you kind of almost miss it. So you get rid of the theming and you can still almost miss it because it's gray. But it does look pretty good. Turns out very well done through here. And then we've also got our barrel rolling ride, or custom ride coming down here. Another very clever ride, presumably Rumi's as well. When you turn this angle, you can really see how this bridge with the zero G roll over top is also the pathway for the guests. Love that structure, really cool, good use of the angled supports here. And then a couple other nice custom rides here. We've got this great swing ride around this water tower type element. Nice size arch bridge across the way, and then you've got our Zero jet skis ride here in the lava. Not sure I'm willing to brave that one, but kind of a neat idea nonetheless to use the lava there. We've got our boat coming in here, delivering the shipments. This is the Basalt Queen. Always points for me for actually naming architecture and things so you know what's going on. Swing ride here using the crane, which is cool. That's a really clever idea. Absolutely loving this. This was one of my favorite rides in the park, just because of the future usefulness, I feel like, of this kind of ride vehicle. So this is a funicular. So it's offset on either side. In RCT, it's kind of hard to do one track splitting across, coming back together, and then going up on a flat surface, but that's okay. I think this is done really well here, and it's a great way to use the terrain and the height a little bit. Loving all the different textures here. You've got a lot of this wood, a lot of this metal, brick, things like that throughout the whole space, and then just how the buildings all sort of sip their way into the landscape as a whole. So there's not a whole lot of color in this map, and I think that's kind of what works for me on it. That, you know, you zoom out and you get really 3 colors, 4 colors. You get blue, you get orange, you get gray, and you get brown. And then aside from that, you have all your rides that call out all the various other bits and pieces. So you've got the magenta of the RMC, a couple of these green buildings here, but they're all pretty muted. So it's letting the landscape do the talking, and all the details sort of work with the landscape as a whole to really accentuate it and work really well with the space. Like this little piece right here, I'm a big fan of, where it's coming through the tunnels and using the in-game standard tunnel, which works really well here in this case. But the whole thing just it goes in and out and in and out. Have our supports kind of cantilevering off the sides. All of it works really well for me. I'm a big fan of that. And then just little details here, like this fire truck and just all sorts of other rides. It's kind of amazing what is squeezed in here. Here's a scrambler. If we spin around, you can see that up top. Here's the town hall, which is used using the dome from the 3D cinema. Just really nicely put together on the whole thing. And then lastly, over here, we've got this super cool lava fall using the custom ride. And then we have our power wheel of some sort, so somehow not getting burned up by the lava. But very neat, very cool, really well done on this whole thing, and just the little subtle cutaways and all those fun bits and pieces. And then lastly, I almost forgot about this entirely. We've got the Steam Sled Joyride, which is kind of fun. It's a little kind of custom adventure ride here using the sled and the front of the mine train. Couple of little track pieces here, but then also sort of free flowing here on some invisible track around the space. Takes up a lot of space. It's pretty open compared to some of the rest. Not necessarily my favorite part of the map, but it does kind of sit well off to the side here. Does its thing really well, and is a fun little extra ride also. So definitely want to check out. But anyway, that was Frontier's Keep. And let's move on to the other map, which is a very different approach to this one here. So this is Stardust Circuit. As we watch the vehicles here pull out, this is a pretty impressive departure from a lot of kind of standard theming we've seen so far. So this is 45% Hooveroo, 35% Ireton, 24% In Cities or Josh, and 1% Central Ethiopian Police. So a lot of stuff going on here. So let's spin around a little bit and see. So we have the various drivers here for the race, and you can see them going up on this racetrack here with the neon signage and arrows and everything else. Custom palette, for one, is really in your face. A lot going on there, and just the various theming elements that are pretty wild. It's just lots of cool details and just really different stuff that you might not otherwise expect. So pretty cool here to see the vehicles split and go different ways. Each of the vehicles kind of ends up being a different ride, so they all have different names. Adds to it. Love the circuit diagram right here. So on our front stretch, let's take that. You've got fantastic grandstands here, just huge and a lot going on. Josh's animated peeps here really bring it to life, give it a lot more livelihood than some of these other ones do. Weird scenic pieces like this, dancing model here, and using the half diagonals that we've been seeing here to pretty extreme. Let's spin it around, and we have the podium over here and some of the different screens from the racetrack, and then the I already called out this bit here. But then we get into all this sort of weird pixel art. Love this face. Got this pretty cool landing pad here for the after we go around the helix for the racetrack, and then just stuff like this. A bunch of animated scenery, kind of fading down to almost nothingness down here. But there's just so much to see, and it is really kind of packed and layered. You'll notice one of the challenges we're having is every time I rotate the camera, it moves a long way away, and that's unfortunately part of being really high up off the ground, so you can kind of see where everything is when you go out. But that's part of it, unfortunately, and part of the isometric nature of the game. But you can't fault that too hard. But when we turn around, we get just this other sort of almost surrealist type theme. So this almost EDC type stage set here with the big pyramid. Got Daft Punk here playing for the crowd. This backdrop is so cool. Really, the scenery pieces here with the kind of color changing, the setup and used in kind of this tile pattern really what make this what it is, give the whole space some life. I mean, it's wild colored for one, just in general, but once you have that movement there, it really adds to it. All the lights, all the fun stuff like that. These cool super loop rides, which actually really don't see these used anymore since they're sort of outdated, but it's a good use right here. Kind of love the spinning of that going around. But we come back here, we get some semblance of architecture and some other things. Get the sort of tight, compact Asian city here, cityscape with more of the billboards, and you've got these really cool scenes here that are all done with different thematic things that we really just never see used. It's almost like one of those challenges to use these just totally weird scenery pieces that nobody ever wants to touch, and using them to pretty good advantage. Same thing here in the casino. We've got the seats here and nice viewing area with all the pillars so we can see into the thing. But we also have the nice arches on either side. Archway here lets you see into all the different games. Love the roulette wheel going along the side here. And honestly, one of my favorite bits is down here, this sort of facade that's sort of nebulous as to what it's doing. It's sort of kind of fading off into the abyss down here, because you've got all this different scenery, and you can see fading off into nothingness. So the question is, are we way up in the air? What's going on? But I love this sort of almost slum feeling nature of this down here. It's just sort of hidden away, but there's so much detail to it, and the architecture is really incredible. Really well done. There's some other rides and things down there too. There's a little monorail we've seen scooting around, and then there is a coaster in here. This is called Discovery. You can kind of see it coming around. Honestly, I'd almost have preferred the coaster that didn't even exist. One of the big challenges with it, especially when you're high up and you got to keep recentering every time you turn the camera, is you got to be able to follow stuff, and when you can't follow it, it's a little bit difficult. So the way that this is interacting with a bunch of the buildings and things, it makes it a little hard to read, which isn't necessarily a huge fault, but for me, it's something that I'd prefer to see a little bit differently. But you go back to stuff like this. So we have Rumi's Raptor track ride that he had done a little while ago, used for this sort of glowing ring to spin around the whole thing. So again, palette to advantage, and just custom rides that. I mean, this was made as a stand-in track for the RMC single rail before that existed. So a pretty wild concept just to even use it for one as moving scenery, and use the colors there too. Same thing with this revolving restaurant here. We've got this slow moving monorail here to make it look like the whole thing's rotating. Really clever, really well done. And you've got the restaurant booths in here too, using the people mover cars that are also slowly rotating. So really clever, cool idea. And just the architecture and skyscrapers and everything. It's neat. It's chaotic, but it's neat. And on the backside of the grandstands, definitely remiss to not look at some of this stuff back here. The spinning cars are really cool. There's just a lot of detail in here. There's even some cutaway stuff if you take the time to cut those away and look into that. There's a lot to happen here. So that said, I think it's probably not surprising, but Adventurers Club took the win on this one, 57-9. Now, I was one of those 9 who voted for Frontiers Keep, and the reason I did is, well, first of all, I just like the aesthetic of that park. I think it did really well. For this, I found it to be almost on the messy side of chaotic. Like, there's a lot going on, and it's almost hard to tell what's going on. I've certainly gained a greater appreciation for this as I've spent more time looking at the whole thing. It's still chaotic for me, and it's still a little bit hard to read, and I wish the coaster wasn't there and some other things, but you cannot deny that this is not a really cool piece of architecture and just world building in general. So hats off to Adventurers Club for that. This round we really saw a lot of really impressive stuff. So we had Sky Paris, which we looked at last video, and now this guy. And actually, it's really a sign of things to come. There's still plenty of kind of really interesting, unique designs on the way. But this was definitely a step in the direction of kind of new and innovative. So always like to see pushing the boundaries, and that's really what head-to-head's all about. So congrats to the Adventurers Club for this one. This got them going in the right direction here, starting off with a couple of wins. So very cool, and congrats to both teams on this one. So we will be back for round 4 here, coming up. So matches 1, 2, and 3 there. We'll record those here soon, so keep an eye out for that coming up next. So until next time, thank you guys very much for watching, and have a great day. Bye now.